So I don't know if it's so much a mistake or something that I get asked about quite a bit. A lot of people who know I've had a history of building, high-performing teams at several organizations that I've worked for, often ask me like, hey, I'm having a really hard time finding salespeople who have sold in my industry, who have the requisite experience that I'm looking for to sell my product or service. Where do you find these people? Where do you think I should be looking? And that inevitably leads to a conversation about my particular philosophy, which is this. I typically don't subscribe to people needing industry-specific experience for particular sales roles that I'm trying to recruit or hire for, unless it is so niche that it really requires like a Rolodex to be successful. And what I mean by that is I once met a man in the lobby of the Marriott who was in sales, and we struck up a conversation, and he sold some sort of specialty concrete, and there were only like 3 companies in the world that sold this particular product. And he was complaining about his company, and and I said, well, why don't you go to a different company? He said, because there's only 3 companies that do this, and I know all the sales guys at the other 2 companies, and we all call on the same 200 clients. Now that's specialized. And that might require like a certain level of, relationships and previous experience. But for the most part, I don't worry so much about industry-specific experience. But what I do think there is some real specificity around is the target market that you're going to be selling into and the audience, that you're going to be calling on it and trying to influence. That to me, is a factor that will dictate the kind of salesperson that I'm looking for, and therefore the background that they have to be successful in the industry. So I'm not going to give you all my secrets, but just an example to illustrate the point. If you're selling software into small businesses, let's say specifically in the health and beauty market, you're selling, booking software platform that is perfectly suited to hair salons. Your target decision maker is typically going to be the owner of the salon. They're also going to be the chief stylist at the salon. They may or may not be technology savvy, and they may or may not know much about marketing. And you as a salesperson are likely going to be not only educating them about the product that you're offering, but potentially even about the marketplace that they work within in the industry. And I found that the perfect profile for that particular role is someone who's charismatic, somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who can build rapport instantaneously, somebody who can articulate your offering succinctly and in a very condensed, impactful way, and somebody who's very comfortable with a short sales cycle. And they also need to be what Mark Cuban on Shark Tank calls a grinder. A grinder is somebody who is very comfortable with a short sales cycle, and they know how to play the numbers game, because in that particular industry, the number of hair salons that you could call on, it's virtually endless, right? So you really want somebody who can just keep calling on new prospects over and over and over again, and and get rejected and move on to the next. And they're comfortable working in that environment, right? Now, contrast that with somebody who's selling large software packages into enterprise organizations. And by enterprises, I mean like big, huge companies, right? Now the target audience for that is much different. You're going to be talking to a decision maker who probably is very technologically savvy, and they are less looking for you to educate them about their industry and their marketplace, and more looking to you as a partner and a consultant. It's also a really long sales cycle, so you're not really looking for somebody who's a grinder. You're looking for somebody who's more skilled at penetrating large accounts, cutting through red tape and bureaucracy, establishing strong and long-lasting relationships once inside those accounts. In short, the profile for that salesperson is completely different than the first one I described. So, in summary, I find that it's important, to figure out what the profile I'm looking for is based upon the target market that salespeople are going to be calling into, and the market that I'm going to be attacking, and more importantly, not deviating from that profile once I know what I'm looking for. Even if I bump into a candidate that I love and they're interesting and they're charismatic and they're telling me they can morph to fit, the product and the marketplace that I'm asking them to penetrate, I have made many a hiring mistake falling into that particular trap. So you say, Jen, that brings up a really good point. I've established what I want in a sales hire, but how do I know when I see it? These salespeople, they're all so good at selling and therefore they're so good at interviewing. And they all say that they'd be a great fit for this particular role, and I believe all of them. Well, you're right. Hiring for sales is very tricky, and it's a big challenge because it's not like hiring a coder or an architect or a plumber, where there's a defined skill set that you can in some ways test in an interview setting, right? Oftentimes you're at the mercy of the salesperson telling you whether they can or cannot do the job. So that's a whole animal that we could talk about for hours. I don't have the time at my command, but there are some great books out there about interviewing specifically for sales, about behavior-based interviewing, there's a book called Top Grading that is a great way to really uncover the root of whether people have been high performing in their previous environment. I would recommend those before you embark on trying to identify whether salespeople fit the right profile. And then once you've nailed those two things, number one is knowing exactly what you're looking for. Number two is knowing how to identify it when you see it. And then number 3 and 4, come naturally with a little bit of work. Number 3 is know how to multiply it. Once you got those people in your organization, know how to multiply those people. Get, people that they've previously worked with, their network, get referrals. Anyway, figure out how to multiply those top performers. And then the 4th thing is, learn how to nurture it and grow it within your organization, which will result in being attractive to those kind of people. And you won't have to do as much outreach. Those people will come looking to work at your organization. And ultimately you'll retain your high performing sales representatives.